Welcome to Pitch in the Zone, our weekly gathering of a couple of coaches that are eager to help a presenter with their 3-minute pitch. Today in the Pitch Zone, we have John Adrian, and John is going to give a pitch that he will address to the C-level in his talk. And Marco, maybe John, you can help us understand better who is the target audience for your pitch.
Right, yeah, so the target audience for this pitch would be, like C-level suite executives that work for major hospital chains.
Excellent, wonderful. And we have on the coaches side, Nathan Gold, speaker, author, and pitch coach extraordinaire. We have Michael Marchak back, also an author, speaker, technologist, and all-around great guy. We have Scotty Spursum from California, another pitch coach with tremendous experience in the startup world, and her specialty is language and language development. We have Marco, serial entrepreneur and presentation enthusiast, joining me from Thailand, and then Vijay calling in from India. With that, I want to turn the floor over to you, John, in just 1 second. One question, are you going to present slides?
I am, yes.
Excellent, okay. So while you're setting them up, let me also direct your attention to Marco. Marco is usually keeping track of the time. He's running a countdown timer. Once the countdown timer reaches the bottom, it will count up, just to make sure that we know if you go over, that we know how much you went over. Okay. And with that, the floor truly is yours, John.
Perfect.
We are ready whenever you are.
Yes, perfect. Thank you, and thank you everyone for joining. My name is John Adrian. I work for a healthcare company called bluepoint2. And I'm here today to tell you that there is a revolution coming within healthcare. And the revolution starts in your pocket. And I'm excited to share with you today the possibilities that brings and the possibilities that our solution, Navi, will help bring forward out of this revolution. But first, we have to discuss the current state of healthcare today. Hospitals are really struggling. 50% of Americans have skipped or postponed appointments this year alone due to COVID-19. Now, to give a little context to that, last year, there were 1.2 billion medical appointments in the United States. So just based off of some quick math, we can assume that somewhere around 600 million appointments have been canceled this year. And the staggering part about it is it's not just physicals. It's not just appointments that, you can call up and say, I don't think it's worth the risk of going. It's life-saving procedures that patients are canceling. So 38% of cancer surgeries have been canceled this year, as well as 50% of imaging appointments as well. So these are things that can help out the healthcare community and patients diagnose issues before they show up or early on. All of those are getting pushed back, which is creating a big issue within healthcare in America today, and I would assume all across the world. And patients are still reluctant to reschedule. They don't know if it's safe, and no one can really blame them. So this brings about two major problems within healthcare. The first one is that patients are not seeking their preventative, elective, and the most worrisome of all, life-saving care. And the second is it's bringing about shrinking revenues for hospitals due to these canceled appointments. And that's not even to mention all of the added costs that they have dealing with the excess amount of PPE that they're ordering and everything like that. But there is good news, and that is that solving this problem is easier than most people might think, and it starts with connecting providers with their patients. So a couple things should make every single hospital CEO, C-suite very excited. And the first one is that rescheduling patients who have canceled or who have postponed appointments rescheduling them is the simplest and easiest way to increase your hospital's revenue while at the same time improve the health outcomes of your patients and of your community. And the second one is that you have the power to do this. 50% of the conditions that affect a patient's willingness to come back to your hospital can be directed or can be affected directly by you, which is why we say it starts with connecting providers and patients to help ease that concern of the patients. Now, so obviously there is a solution to this, and it is connecting the providers with the patients through our solution called Navi. And what we're doing with Navi is we are creating something that is almost becoming dead within healthcare, and that is the hospital lobby. And the way that we are recreating this is we're creating a virtual lobby in every single patient's pocket with their smartphone. And that goes back to the revolution that I was talking about. And we'll get into that a little bit more. So hospitals all around the world are starting to realize, and they're just now starting to realize, the power of mobile messaging. To all of us, this probably seems very, these are stats that if we don't know the stats, we know for sure that 90% of people respond to a text message within 30 minutes. Now, what this means for hospitals is that 90% of your patients can be in your virtual lobby within 30 minutes, meaning that we can have 90% of your patients in a position to discuss with their providers, what are your COVID protocols? What are ways that you can make me feel safe to come back to the hospital? And how can I reschedule this overdue or canceled appointment that I have? So what we do with Navi is we focus on that patient's virtual lobby experience. We allow them to navigate the logistical, clinical, and the financial aspects of their care. So by recreating your hospital lobby on a person's cell phone, we are revolutionizing healthcare by saying you don't need to go through what you used to have to go through. You don't have to come into the hospital to get the information that you need. We're making it simple. We're meeting the patients where they are, and we're making your hospital and your services more accessible to everybody, with the end result being improved patient care and bringing back revenue and patients back to your hospital. So, with the 600 million appointments that have been canceled this year, how many of those do you think are your patients? Together, let's make sure that they're coming back to you and your hospital and not a competitor. To invite your patients back, call me and let's talk about creating your own virtual lobby. Thank you.
Wow.
Wow,
really,
way over time.
Really good job, John. Can I ask you to stop sharing the screen so we are getting more real estate? Although I loved your slides so much, you could keep them up much longer. Really, that's one of the notes I made here. I loved your slides. And until you got to the very end, I was totally in love with your opening as well, because it instilled a certain level of curiosity. But once I heard your ending, all of a sudden I thought, wow, perhaps there is something that's even more powerful to wake up the people in the audience when you were asking the question about, how many of these people are your patients? And that way, if you would move that perhaps all the way up to the beginning, you involve the audience immediately because you're asking them a direct question. But if not, no biggie, because I really liked your opening as it was. The only thing is a little bit on the time, and I'm sure others will go into that as well. If you go to some places and they give you 3 minutes, they kind of frown on when you go a little longer. We don't, because your pitch was also really informative and valuable, but you might want to watch the time. And I'm sure Nathan will go back to that as well in terms of where you can save more than a minute, I think.
Yes, so, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah. All right. So do we have any of the coaches that want to go first today? Is there anybody not? Raise your hand. There we go with Marco. Okay, Marco, please, the floor is yours.
So I'll start with the compliments for the slides, as Claudio said, because they look very professional. All the stock photos were really well chosen. And the text, the only thing is maybe the text, most of the times, everything on the slide, you just repeated that. So maybe just put a couple of keywords instead of putting exactly the same text.
Right, yeah.
One particular slide with the calendar, January 2020, maybe use one in the future, not one in the past, because it's kind of like 1 year old. And I don't know psychologically showing something in the past, if it's good or not. But to me, it was kind of old, you know. You will talk in 2021, it will look like old in a way.
Right, yeah, I like
that.
Yeah,
you've been kind of slow, meaning you started to talk about your solution after 2 minutes and 20 seconds. Specifically, after 3 minutes and 35 seconds, you started to talk about your solution. So that's kind of too far away. So for example, at the beginning, when you said, to me was very nice, you said, the solution is in your pocket. And then you said, and now we're going to discuss how we try to, yeah, we know that, cut that, you know, that's totally useless. I mean,
okay.
To me.
Okay.
One small thing, you said like, you know, twice in a row at the beginning, which I know is kind of a small thing, but in 3 minutes, losing 4 seconds is like 2% of the time. So, yeah. But it was really looked very professional, informative. So I liked it very much. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Marco. And yeah, I agree also with the conversational style, right? Your delivery was really, I wonder, were you coached just recently, maybe by somebody in pitching?
No, I haven't been, but I've had the pleasure of being with Lederman and watching him get coached by Nathan, and so that's
all right. I detected something there, so really great. Michael, may I turn it over to you? And just before you grab the microphone, John, Michael also makes usually a couple of comments in the chat box. So you may want to grab those as well before we are wrapping up today. Michael, the floor is yours.
So I agree with the tempo and the approach you took with the slides. I thought that was very good. One of the challenges I had originally was, and I don't know if it's because you're talking to us and you're not talking to your intended audience, but you talked about, you said, well, they know this kind of stuff and they know that sort of stuff versus you know this or whatever. The other thing too is you spent a lot of time on the stats of this. Guarantee that every one of these CXOs for these healthcare providers already feels the pain of having missed appointments and having canceled elective surgeries and whatnot, because this is huge from a business perspective to them. So as you've gone through to provide these stats, they're going, yeah, dude, you have no idea. And so that comes off almost as if you don't know their business because you're providing stats that maybe to us is, I didn't know that. It's kind of interesting. But to them, it's like, I've been feeling this pain for 8 months. And you're telling me, yeah, there's all these things. Yeah, I totally get it beyond what you even know. And so consider who your audience is. And when you're talking to them, bring that up. Like, you guys have felt this here. Your patients have canceled on you. You've had to remove the elective surgeries. This is causing pain in your pocketbook right now. We know that. Here's how our solution goes. That gets you really close to them because you identify with them rather than that whole they thing that you kind of mentioned indirectly.
Yeah. I did struggle a little bit with which audience was I talking to, my intended audience or the audience that was in front of me today.
Right. Yeah, no, I totally understand that. I said that's why when you're doing practicing these pitches, you say you're heading towards some CXOs for, that's what we put our hats on for. All right, we own a hospital that's losing money right now because of COVID. You're talking to me, and that's how I hear or listen to this to help you. So if you're telling me that's who I'm going to be, that's how that ears I put on to listen to this stuff. So talk to me like I have that kind of thing.
And you're absolutely right. The credibility. A lot of credibility will come from stats, but you're absolutely right. In this situation, the credibility comes from you saying that you understand their pain, not trying to tell them about their pain.
Right. Right, exactly. And then to Marco's point, as you got to the end there, you started talking about, you know, and here's what we can do, blah, blah, blah. I never really heard specifically how Navi supports increasing the revenues piece. Maybe I missed it, but I didn't catch that part as I was listening for it. Like, how do you help me do that by, you know, attaching to this virtual lobby thing? You talked a lot about hospitals. I don't know if your intent eventually is to extend to other clinics or providers or whatnot. Again, depending on who your audience is or who your target is for your platform, that could be something to look into as well in terms of understanding how they operate. And then finally, just as a patient, someone who has had to go into waiting rooms in the past, I don't know what your platform is looking at from a timing feedback, but I guarantee that every single patient out there has had a situation where they arrived the 15 minutes ahead of their scheduled appointment, and sat there for about 2 hours until the doctor was ready to see them. So if you're able to incorporate something like that into your virtual lobby, where you can give someone an idea that your appointment is at 8:15, but you'll be seen by the doctor at 9:15, that could give them a lot more credibility, because now they're actually keeping track dynamically and providing the feedback in real time back to the people who are using the app. Now there's extreme value for the patient, because now I see this as like a really big valuable thing for me, versus I'm going to help the hospital keep track of us and process us more faster, which again, when you're a patient, you don't want to be processed, you want to be cared for. So again, just those are my feedback from that perspective.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
Excellent. As always, Michael, and what I really always appreciate about your feedback here is that you are thinking beyond the pitch in itself. Really, really great. And I saw Liederman nodding furiously. So you really hit something there. Next up, Nathan.
Okay, thank you. In fairness, I have been working with Liederman for more than a year. On different things, not just the pitch, in terms of things like Navi. That's the first thing I'd like to start with. I didn't hear, John, I didn't hear you bring Navi front and center. You got to give that more time, more love, more affection, because then we realize, oh, those guys do Navi. And that Navi thing does this. It makes, you know, blah, 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 blah. Totally agree with Marco. He and I are probably the few people in the world that were always listening very carefully for when you go from intro, problem to product. And he hit it right on the head. You actually told us first that there's good news at 1 minute and 40 seconds, which I found still way too long. And then he caught you 3 minutes and 35 seconds, even in a 5-minute pitch, is way too much on the problem, especially for the audience you were talking about. So I agree with Claudio. I loved your opening as well. I feel like it can even be stronger for that group by just putting 600 million on your first slide. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. 600 million appointments for your facilities, including your facilities, have been canceled, missed, or postponed. Why? Who knows? But what I'm here to show you is a way to get them back. I mean, something like that, to me, would get those people completely like, okay, what next?
Right.
Right? And then the next thing is, you know, those front desks and the lobbies, they were a thing of the past. Meet Navi, the virtual lobby in your pocket. And then just tell us what Navi does for your patients, for your healthcare facilities, and spend all the time on the Navi that solves the problems that they have, rather than the typical problem, solution, marketing, you know, all that stuff. Combine those problems together with the baby and let us see Navi and how it does what you claim it can solve in the problem.
Okay.
That's all. I love that. Liederman, this is the first time I've heard the lobby in your pocket. And that I really like that metaphor. And, you know, you could even say every front desk in your facility, where we all go from front desk in the lobby, then we go to the clinical section, we go to that front desk, and then another desk and another desk to check in. Navi does all of that for you, right? Beautiful thing.
Right.
Removes all the friction, makes the patients happier. They wait in their car. I mean, we have, you know, when they're texting us, we wait in our car, we go to the front desk, they do the front door, they do this, go back to your car, we'll text you when you're ready to come in. That's what our facilities here are doing. You bring like 10x to that. It's not just about getting in there on the right time, it's all the things that people have already just mentioned.
Perfect. Thank you.
Beautiful thing. It's coming together so beautifully.
Awesome.
Thank you, Nathan. Thank you very much. And next up, we have Scotty. Scotty, what have you noticed?
And in fairness, too, I've done a little bit of work with Lederman as well, so I'm familiar with the story. Great to meet you, John. Wonderful to hear your voice as well. Same comments. Yeah, I noted it was 31 seconds left in the pitch when I first heard Navi. So you got to flip it around to the solution. And also, just because I'm a word person, we're having such a cantankerous time in the world right now, but you know, elections and COVID, that revolution sometimes has a negative connotation. So I wonder if maybe revolutionize efficiency, or Navi will revolutionize your customer experience, or use the word because it's changed, but it's changed for good. And I heard this early on in the pandemic from some academics, and I agree with it now, that disruption isn't so great, right? We need solutions, right? I don't want anything else to be flipped on its head. I want my problems to be solved more elegantly. So maybe some wording around that, because everybody's unsettled. Another way to maybe say it. I like that, and the numbers are huge. Same thing, your CEOs are going to know far more about this than you do, but you have a solution. And Lederman and I have talked about this quite a bit. You know, you might even want to go through an example. I mean, I know Lederman had used his experience with his father-in-law, but whether there's, okay, take the dentist's office, for example, boom, or take the imaging. Because imaging is one of those things I've had done, and it's not so scary, really. You know, like, walk them through the efficiencies, both for the customer care, but also on the office end. Because it's a nightmare, you know, trying to get all this data to everybody all the time, and there's 25 different systems.
Yeah.
And the money, you know, and the money. And I know Navi is hugely efficient, and it's like the solution that they aren't willing to listen to yet because they're shell-shocked.
Right, exactly. And that's a little bit of the pitch today, was to kind of get over some of the shell shock of Navi and all that it brings, and saying, at this point, let's just focus on bringing those customers back, because it is a very simple way for you to increase revenue. And all it really takes is reaching out to patients, and you can convince them that it's safe to come to your hospital. And that's what patients want.
Do you have, and I don't know whether this would be good for the pitch or good for the Q&A, but I'm finding different doctors and different healthcare systems have different systems that I need to log into for a variety of things. So I upload my X-ray here, but then I go to see a PT here, and then I have to upload my X-ray here. So can Navi do any of those things as well?
So you mean grabbing images from different areas of the hospital?
Or just coordinate your paperwork for all different kinds of doctor systems, right? Because I thought it was about checking in. Have I done my copay? Have I filled out my forms?
Yes, you can.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So yeah, what we would do is integrate into all those different systems, but yes.
Didn't hear any of that.
Right.
Like we're right. Navi is, the interface is complementary to, and you name all the main systems. Because I know you've been working with big hospital systems. So you might want to drop some of those buzzwords, because CEOs know all about them also.
Okay.
So.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, but it was great. It's good to hear another voice. Tell the good story. So.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you, Scotty. And I want to turn the mic over to Jess as well. I'm going to put you on the spot here, because the best way to improve your pitches is, of course, to go out and pitch. I think the second best way is to watch somebody else's pitch, put on your coaching hat, and find out what can they do better. And I am absolutely convinced you have one or two things that you could share with John, how he can improve a really great pitch even more.
I do. The first thing, you said virtual hospital lobby about 50 times. That's a very easy concept to understand. which is great. You say it, I got it. We don't need to just say it a couple times. So that was my first suggestion. The second is don't limit this to hospitals. Like other people have said, I mean, there's nothing worse than getting your kid out of school and then waiting in a waiting room for an hour to see a doctor. It's a complete waste of time and patients hate it. So just give us a little bit more about patients are going to love this. And when patients love things, then they like their doctors and it goes all the way up, right? So I think that's something that everybody can identify with immediately. So I love this so much. I think it is a phenomenal needed thing. And I think it's one of those things that's going to come out of COVID as a huge benefit. So keep going. I love this. I couldn't love it more, actually.
Thank you.
Really good point, Jess. I think Liederman and John and Jason, she just reminded you, make it all about the patient.
Yeah.
The patient will feel better. The stress is reduced. They don't worry. They don't complain. They don't miss their, I mean, that's the angle. I feel like that's it. Why didn't we do that 6 months ago? Jess, where were you 6 months ago? Look at the smile on Liederman's face. The guys have been working really hard on this. And, when you're in the forest, sometimes you can't see the trees. And that's the beauty of these kinds of sessions, is that all of us help people see the trees. It's really great.
Yes. And I will get back to Liederman as well. But before, I would quickly want to go to Vijay. Vijay, do you want to unmute yourself and share anything that you have noticed in John's pitch?
Yeah, so good evening all. It was an excellent pitch. The slides are very well designed. The flow is also excellent, so that he can, whatever he wants to express, it will reach the audience in a better way. So in overall, it's a very good presentation. All the best. Thank you.
Thank you, Vijay. And Faizan, I'm not sure whether you are just listening in or whether you want to share some of your feedback as well.
Sir, I totally agree with Michael about that saving the patient's time. That thing I really appreciate. If we save the patient's time, the patient will come back to you again. So I think it was a very informative, great presentation. This is the first pitch I have seen about, like, I'm new to this, so I'm learning from this pitch zone. So.
Awesome. Thank you, Faizan. That's exactly why we are doing these things, because there's learning at every single angle and every person gets something differently out of this. Now, Jason, I'm not sure, because you are going to be on, I think, next week or maybe in 2 weeks or something like that, whether you want to grab that opportunity as well to quickly provide some feedback to John.
Well, John and I and Liederman put the slides together. So,
yep.
Yeah, I love the feedback, and I agree with all of that. It's great because, yeah, we are too close to it and you don't see things, but feedback's been excellent, very much excellent. The one thing I would say is the presentation would be geared towards the audience. So sometimes we would present to hospitals, other times it would be to family practice doctors. So it would be a different presentation, talking about their practice. And when we have a chance coming up to do just that with family practice physicians.
Cool. Well, we are practically at the end of our 30 minutes, but I do want to get some feedback from Liederman, because you brought your team here. You've been pitching here before as well. Do you have any feedback for John right now? I'm sure you have a lot of it offline as well. And what is your feedback to our session here today?
Yeah, well, thank you so much. Thanks, everybody. The feedback is amazing. We came up with this whole virtual lobby yesterday. So today, this is the first time we try it out. So, and Jason and John worked so hard on putting, everything together, and the slides were phenomenal. Guys, I really love them. I'm actually throwing away my deck now, and I'm going to use that one because it's so much better. But no, I mean, I think all the feedback is very, very valuable. The things that resonate to me the most I think everything what Jess said about you make it about the patient, that is so true. And we know that, but like Jason was saying, sometimes we're so close to what we're doing that we forget little things like that are big things. Little for us because we're focusing on talking to the CFO, the CEO, but we forget that it's all about the patient, and from the patient we can make it resonate to why it is important to you, hospital, doctor, whomever. So I really appreciate all the feedback. John, as you know, as you can see, he's a rock star. He's amazing. So I'm super proud and happy to see what Jason and John put together here with the for this. So this is really, really cool. Really cool to have the team here too.
And to be able to test your message on all of these wonderful people on the line before you take it out to the world is kind of fun too, don't you think?
Oh my God, it's super valuable. It's super valuable. And I hope Jason and John, since the first time here, you see it that way, because it's extremely valuable. I mean, for us just today, for John to be, you know, first time talking about the virtual lobby, then we realized, okay, on the presentation, there's virtual lobby too many times. Right, like Jez was saying, you know, we get it the first time, maybe remind me a second time, then be done with it. We get it. But things like those, for us to be able to test drive this new message is invaluable.
Love it. Test drive your new messages.
Excellent.
That's a great metaphor. Love
Excellent.
It.
So with that, we have actually really reached the end of our meeting. What I would like to do is to invite you, John, back at one point in the future, once you had time to integrate the feedback today and perhaps shorten it down to the 3 minutes. And you are welcome anytime to come back, because to create a really winning pitch is, of course, an iterative process. And I am sure that we can find continuous improvements with future versions. With that, I want to thank everybody on the call. You guys and girls absolutely rock. You are giving your time freely to help other presenters, and to me, that means the world. So thank you all, and I look forward to seeing you again next week. Thank you, and all have a great day. See you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.